welcome to what I consider season 3, but who knows because we haven't labelled the Spotify or Apple very well. It's the Women's Soccer Show. It's me, Helen, and I'm here with Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hello. Happy 2021.
Happy New Year. I think there's a rule you have to say it like that, isn't it? Happy New Year.
And then once you've said it for a week, you have to just say it like it's the last thing you want to say. Like Happy New Year.
It's kind of entering that awkward phase because we are now over a week into the new year, and so far not so good.
We're not okay.
We're not okay either, if that helps. Like for Schadenfreude purposes, it's not okay here either. So should we give each other a virtual hug? Virtual hug.
Yeah, I think we should. But also, yeah, it would be nice to know that there was a place we could maybe escape to. I think the majority of us kind of want out right now.
What, Dubai? Too soon.
Never.
Went there.
No, I hear it's great this time of year.
That's so naughty, as if I went there, but I don't even give a shit. I don't even give a shit. I have a bone to pick with you as well. So Sarah actually curated this week's episode. Thank you. It's really well put together, and I will hand over to you in a second. But there's one bone I want to pick with you. The way that you form a calendar month on this. I'd like to just, for all the English listeners out there, she's written TWSS, the Women's Soccer Show. That's correct. And then she's written 1.7.21, which is a show that will be recorded in July, according to my calendar brain. I said the 1st of July. This is really, really well prepared show, Sarah. Thank you so much. So I'd like to hand over. Is that okay? Are you okay with that? What would you like to say in return?
I think it's fully fair. I think the majority of the world writes dates in that way, where it goes day, month, and then year. The weird thing is, I think the
Romans would have something to say about that.
Probably. America, we're the greatest country in the world. We don't use the metric system, and we form our dates and our months like this.
And you drive on the ride, and I have that's, come on.
Okay, I will defend that because I know we're not the only country that does that.
Yeah, that's true. We're pretty much the only ones that do it the other way around. Hannah, tell us what we're going to be doing for part 1 of today's show, and let's get going.
You might want to say that again because you said Hannah.
Oh yeah, on that note, everyone. Oh my god, I love Hannah so much. I just can't even.
I know, we miss her right now.
On that note, obviously Hannah's not with us this week, but she's obviously on my mind. But Sarah has curated this first part of the show. So Sarah, I'd like to hand over to you.
All right. Well, I am very excited because we are going to be doing we're going to be doing a 2020 recap, which I'm very excited about. I know there was less football, less soccer than we all anticipated in 2020, but still a lot of amazing moments. So what we've done is we've taken 4 categories and we have nominated certain events, goals, whatever they may be in that category. We will go category by category like an award show, and we can call it an award. We'll present the award to the winner of that category for the best moment. So for example, we're going to be going through 4 categories here. We have the best game worldwide. Helen has nominated some. I have nominated some. Best player for club worldwide, best player for country worldwide, and best moment overall, which is a big one.
Yeah.
So we're going to be going through these 4 categories, talking through our nominations, and there will probably be some lively debate about what the winner is, because I feel like we're going to maybe agree on some, maybe disagree on others.
Yeah, and also when we first said let's review 2020, I was like, who wants to talk about 2020? Let's forget that ever happened. But actually, looking back, and I was writing about this the other day, actually, looking back on 2020, it wasn't the most fruitful year for women's football. In fact, there's been plenty of disasters in the world of women's football in terms of funding and in terms of things that have happened. We'll get onto that later. But actually, when you asked me to look back and pick things, I was like, there's some pretty cool moments of 2020. So should we dive in?
Let's dive in. All right. First category up is best game worldwide. Helen, do you want to read through these nominations?
And the nominations for Best Game Worldwide are I put little sound clips over the top.
I love it. I love it.
First nomination was the USA versus Netherlands 2020, the one that happened in November. The second nomination is the France versus Netherlands Tourneo de France in March. Cool, like it.
Neither of us speak French, so that's how
Tourneo.
We'll say it.
English sounds awful. My third one is I popped this in as maybe a bit of a curveball. The Utah versus Houston 3-3 game, which was, I believe, one of the opening games of the Challenge Cup. And the final one was Man U versus Man City matchup. 2 games, but building that rivalry. And you've written in brackets, it is a bit of a cheat because this is 2 games, but putting it out there, and I like a bit of cheekiness. So, and worth noting, we will obviously put this as a poll on our Twitter and our Instagram, so you guys can get involved once we've released the episode. So USA versus Netherlands, that's your nom. Talk to me.
This is my nom. I think that this is a nomination not really because of how good of a game it was, but because we were all so starved for competitive international football. That's why this is nominated. Do I expect it to be a winner? No. Do I think that it should be in this category? Absolutely. That's what I think this nomination really is. And that's probably not a good... I see how this is going to go, so we're going to be very competitive about this.
Yeah, we are!
Okay. Well, the next nomination was mine as well, and I actually think that this is not only the front runner, but the one that will actually take the gold.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. This is France versus Netherlands, the Tourneo de France. This happened back in March 10th, I believe, actually. This was an epic game. If you didn't see it, I highly recommend you go watch the highlights of it. It ended in a 3-3 final score. The Netherlands went up 2-0. France came back and tied it. The Netherlands scored their third goal in the 72nd minute, and then France came back, and in the third minute of the 4-minute stoppage time at the end of the game, came back, tied it up, ended in a 3-3 draw. It was an incredible game against 2 fantastic football clubs who, frankly, were still in pretty top form. This was the beginning of 2020. I think that this was hands down the best international football played in 2020. Don't push my competitive buttons, Helen.
Yeah,
we're going
I know.
there.
Oh my God, that was so sexy. So moving on to I feel like my solid front runner, and I'm going to argue that this actually, I think, could be one of the games of the year. And I'll tell you for why. Challenge Cup was, as an outsider, I guess, but as somebody that did content creation for the Challenge Cup, it could have gone one of 2 ways. This tournament could have been like this is a test for COVID. But because of games like this one, the Houston Dash against the Utah Royals, because of games like this one, it really sparked a competitive beginning to a tournament, which ended with games like the Portland Thorns game, obviously stands out, the one where they beat the NCC, and then obviously the Houston Dash beating Portland the game after. And I think this sort of competitive edge was all started by these games right in the beginning. So Houston Dash, of course, led by the one and only Rachel Daly, and kind of re-sparking and re-energizing the Mewis bond, which, let's put it out there, made that USA Netherlands game that's nominated as number 1 and should not be up in the nominations, quite frankly.
The nominations were not put in any order, but yes, agreed about Mewis.
So it was 3-1, and then in the last 8 minutes, they absolutely folded in their ability to defend, and the game finished 3-3, but it was such a dramatic close. And if you remember, that third goal scored by Utah in the final seconds was literally a scramble. It bounced into the goal. The passion, the disappointment from the Houston side, and then the passion from the Utah side was this is going to be a really, really good tournament. And it just kind of started off what ended up being, for me, one of the highlights of 2020 in the Challenge Cup tournament. So that's my nom.
I'm not going to lie, it's a great nom.
You nominated Manchester United and Manchester versus Manchester City. Actually, that game was really good.
That game was pretty great.
Let me just have a look at that game. Man United, Tobin Heath goal. because that was sexy. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh.
And then start counting how many times Helen uses the word sexy in this podcast.
Yeah.
It did make me feel good was when one of them was about me though, so I appreciate it.
Yay! Okay, I've got 2 things to add. I think number 1, we have to put in the 2-2 draw against Man City against Man United, because actually that was a really good game and it was a comeback game. I'm sorry. Okay, so we're going to put out to the people, to the pollsters out there, we're going to put out USA versus Netherlands 2020 November, France versus the Netherlands March 2020, Utah versus Houston, which was I think July 2020, and then Man U versus Man City, which I think was December 2020. I might have been November, but it felt November 2020.
All right, our nominations are first for best player for club worldwide, Rachel Daly of the Houston Dash, nominated by me.
I would have nominated you, just got in there first.
It's still mine. Valerie Gauvin, Tobin Heath of Manchester United. And Helen, I'll let you take the last one.
I nominated Sam Lewis. You're looking a bit confused, but I've got my reasons. Rachel Daly, why did you nominate her? She didn't do much. Just kidding.
I was so confused for a second. Rachel Daly. So for this category, I took this as which player made the most impact on their club. And Rachel Daly was the Houston Dash in the Challenge Cup. I mean, not only was she the Houston Dash, she was the Challenge Cup, let's be fair. So Rachel Daly of the Houston Dash, the way she played for them, what she did for them on the field, what she did for them as a captain off the field, she truly led them to victory in the Challenge Cup. She is my number 1 nomination for best club player or player for club worldwide. Nominated second, Valerie Gauvin, playing for Everton. I think I just totally messed up her second name, but that's okay.
No, I think that was pretty good. And I love this nom. I'm sorry to jump in because I know this was your nomination, but Everton, do you know what I hate? And this happens all over the world of football. It's really easy to look world class in a world class team. And Gauvin plays for a good team. Everton are a really decent team, but she has, in the short time that she's been playing for Everton, and sadly I think she's out with injury at the moment. She had if I remember, she played excellently in the FA Cup, and she got injured. And did she play on in the FA Cup as well?
She played on until the end of the game, and then they went into extra time, and she didn't play the extra time.
She was absolutely amazing in that fixture in particular, but for Everton, an absolute beacon. She's scoring goals for them. I think she scored 3 and 5, but also assisting and creating. She's pacey. She's I think other clubs must be going, holy macaroni.
Thank you. Wow. High praise.
And you know what else I love? That this is about 2020. So this is about 1 year between January and December. So it is totally different to what the top 100 looks like in terms of players, because we're looking at club alone, solo, but also we're looking at a different timescale. So Gauvin's a really good shout, and I'd love to see her in that top 10 if she continues in the way she's going after she comes back from injury, man.
I think we will.
Another name that's being raised again is your third nominee.
That's fair. And I do think, though, that everybody will agree with this nomination.
Yeah.
Coming in third, obviously, the great Tobin Heath of Manchester United. Listen, I do think that Tobin Heath and Kristen Press coming in together is what really helped define Manchester United, what is making them, I think it's giving them this extra punch, this extra push. Not that they didn't have great forwards before, but bringing in really, really top class forwards like those two, it's really changed who they are as a team, how they play. It's the reason they're at the top of the table right now. So I do feel bad leaving Kristen Press off of this list, because I do think that she's done just as much for Manchester United as Tobin Heath has. Tobin Heath is just that standout player. She's got that winning mentality. She's brought it to Manchester United, and she's just had those shining moments. I mean, we just talked about her goal And when we're talking about players that have most impacted their club so far this year, you think Manchester United and you think Tobin Heath.
I think she got nominated for Player of the Month. There's every chance she could be up for Player of the Season this year. She's my favorite US Women's National Team player, has been for a long, long time, and obviously I'm a Portland Thorns fan, so there's no guessing why she is one of my favorite players. But I remember when she left America, I was like, I don't know how well she's going to do in this league because she is physical, but because of the aggression involved, and I just couldn't see that part of her game. Like, she's an aggressive player, she has that sort of ability, but I saw her in the World Cup as being somebody that would draw fouls, that would be able to slow the game down, that had pace, and was a really good leader. But actually she's shown, no, don't fucking mess with me. Like, I will not be nudged off the ball. Moving on from Tobin Heath is your nom, which I fully respect and agree with, and would have been one of mine.
One more thing before we move on, even though we've talked about Tobin for like 15 minutes right
now. We love Tobin.
Just about what you said about Tobin, and you were worried about her coming into the WSL. I think that's a really interesting point, because you look at Kristen Press and you look at Rose Lavelle, who might arguably be having a harder time. That doesn't mean they're struggling, might be having a harder time though than someone like a Sam Mewis. You look at them and you think, oh, maybe the creative players are just having a harder time in this league, because Rose Lavelle and Kristen Press are very, very much more, I would describe them as more creative on the ball players. But then somebody like Tobin Heath comes along, who is the epitome in women's soccer of a creative player, and she's just beasting all over the place. So just more facts to support this nomination, I think. Have we talked ourselves into a winner already?
Maybe. And then I think also you've kind of just led me on really nicely to my nomination, or like the final one, because this all ties into each other. And I'd like to raise hopefully an interesting point. My nomination is Sam Mewis of Manchester City. And the reason that I've nominated her is, firstly, I believe that she's become a catalyst for Manchester City. I truly believe she is the first name on a serious games team sheet now. Although I don't think there are very many Manchester City team sheets being put together at the moment. Awkward. So yeah, I see her as being that first name, being that person that it's sort of unavoidable to put her into a major game, and she has created and scored a ton of goals. But the reason why I've nominated her is because earlier in 2020, she's obviously playing over in America in the NWSL. And I was again a bit like, oh, I wonder how this will go, this signing of Sam Mewis. And I feel like Rose Lavelle, it was like Rose Lavelle, because she was obviously young player of the World Cup. And she was so highlighted at the World Cup as being the future, the player to watch. So I think Sam Mewis kind of got an easy entry into life in the WSL, because everybody was like Rose Lavelle, and I feel like it was more spotlighted. Would that be fair? The Lavelle totally entry.
Yeah.
When we spoke last season to Ella Massar, who had played for Houston Dash, she was actually the first person to score a goal in a Houston Dash shirt, believe it or not, which I think is quite a cool little fact. I wanted to know what she felt were the unique differences between the league. And I think that what she raised with us was the athleticism and amount of yards that you cover as an NWSL player versus playing in Europe is astronomical. So when you train as an NWSL player, it is athletics. It's how fast can you run and how far can you go, and how many, and that's proven in the Challenge Cup, because players would go in to the bitter end playing games every few days and really, really tough schedule, but they're the absolute epitome of athletes. And she said the massive difference was coming to Europe, pulling on a PSG shirt as she did. She was all of a sudden they're talking about formations and backlines and technicalities, and you were spending as much time in the classroom learning about football as you were on the pitch learning about being fast and athletic and stuff. And I watch it through those eyes now. So when you watch the NWSL, you have to have respect for the amount of miles covered. They are epitome of athletes, Olympians, they graft so hard on their craft. And then you look at the European League, and I think it's a really interesting matchup, because then, you know, you don't get the same issues with the back line in the NWSL. Sometimes is so off. Like there's major errors in technicalities of, like, you know, offside traps and of formation issues where players will just go completely awry and they'll just be, you know, in the other half and they're supposed to be a centre back or whatever. And Sam comes from that league. That's her main staple, is the NWSL. And she lands in the WSL in probably the most technical team in the WSL. I'm going to get fights about this, but Manchester City are renowned for short passing play football, triangles, creating play by pushing through the midfield. I feel like Sam has adapted from a really athletic league to a really technical and footballing league. 9 appearances, 3 goals as a midfielder, 1 in 3, but her assists, I think she's played a part in more goals for Manchester City than anybody else. She is the Tower of Terror. Like, I'm fully in agreement with that. I just think she's absolutely brilliant.
For me as an American, as somebody from the US, to watch everybody in England just like go crazy for her all of a sudden in almost a way of like, who is this girl? Oh my God, she's amazing. We love her. And we're just like, yeah,
we knew this.
She's pretty great.
Yeah, we know. Thanks so much. And kind of, I think so. That's the nominations, guys. Which is,
those are the nominations. I have a very clear winner. Do you have a clear winner, Helen?
No. When we move on to this next section, I'm gonna say, should we boot best player in the world for their country? Because what games really have we had this year? Should we boot that and just go straight on to
it? Just to everybody listening, we had a hard time nominating anybody for this because there haven't been a lot of international games.
And you nominated Kira Walsh, and the first thing I thought is, England, like, I don't think they've won a game in like 17 years. I mean, salt in the wound, and it's hurting me a lot, but Phil Neville, get the fuck out. On that note, I think he is leaving soon. So
he definitely is leaving soon. But as a soccer junkie, I did watch the England inter-squad matches.
These are not games, guys. These are not games. I could be nominated for best player for country worldwide on this basis, because I was like, I played in the park.
Yeah, send me some film, Helen, and I may or may not put you on the list.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. The best moment, what we said in brackets here was, could be a funny moment, could be a goal, like a specific goal that made you go, ah! It could be a thing like the playground at the Challenge Cup. And so it was really hard for me because there was so many things, but I'm going to hand over to you because your nomination is first.
I'm really excited for this first one because this is my girl. Okay. Listen, I know I've said that about a lot of people, specifically number 1, Rachel Daly today, but my girl, Kelly O'Hara, shout out. She had one play, I believe it was back in March of 2020. She's running down the sidelines with the ball. She makes this great cut. She leaps over the defender who she got around. She hits the end line. She goes to cross it, and she does what every soccer player knows and dreads doing. And she like double taps it with her non-striking foot and then whiffs the ball completely. If you haven't seen it, go to her Twitter. She pinned it, so it's the first thing that you see when you go to her Twitter page. I highly recommend. It's hilarious. I nominate this. I remember watching it live and I was almost peeing my pants laughing.
I appreciate that, Nom. Number 2, second nomination was also by you, but then I put it in as well, but worded it differently. So it's kind of a mutual nom, but I'm going to hand to you as an American. Tell us what number 2 is.
All right. Number 2 is during the Challenge Cup. Obviously, all of the players wore Black Lives Matter shirts during the national anthem and for warm-ups. And the majority of the players were also kneeling during the national anthem. And there was a very beautiful moment during one of the Chicago Red Stars games where Casey Short was clearly kneeling and very emotional. And Julie Ertz was kneeling right next to her, emotional with her, had her arm around her. And the power of that image was very just overwhelming. And I think not only one of the images of women's football in 2020, but one of the images of 2020 as a whole.
Yeah, I feel like genuinely a bit choked even describing it, because I just remember it so clearly at the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that tournament again came at a time when this was really prevalent and it was really huge. So these images were being flashed all over the world, and the Challenge Cup was like really highlighted as being a tournament that had positively highlighted this process, and loads of people were behind it, and that was an iconic moment. The next nomination is for Millie Bright. Millie,
I had to.
Millie. I love this nom. I laughed out loud actually, because I was like, Millie Bright, how has she managed to make it in? But it was the Community Shield, Wembley Stadium, empty obviously, which is big sucker. I think it was the first time that the women's game had the Community Shield in a long time. Just for anybody in America, the Community Shield is like a really old game that is between the FA Cup winner and the league winner. It was really nice. That I was so excited. It was on the BBC, so it was on live television. I'm going to give my personal situation.
I want to hear your account of this. Yeah.
So I love the Community Shield because it's a good game to watch, because it's not a massively important game, but it's a shield at the end of the day. It's a trophy in your cabinet. So I'm all about that. I'd gone to make some potato wedges. So I'd cut some potatoes up. I'd come back through with my plate of potato wedges, and I had some ketchup and mayo, like to mix it together, and it kind of goes like a pinky color. Salt and pepper, absolutely banging. And I was sat there, I was thinking, I think this needs cheese. And as I'm thinking this needs cheese, all of a sudden, from nowhere, like Millie Bright, who's obviously a tank, she just sort of like, I don't want to say waddles through to midfield, but she's not,
no.
She's not, we're not talking about, a 5'2" player. We're talking about this massive giant of a player. She just comes through, the ball bounces perfectly. And from, how many yards out?
Somewhere between the 18 and halfway, like so far out.
She just goes, nah, boosh. She just, and she just looks at it and goes, yeah, fuck this. And she just goes, boosh. And the game hadn't had a goal yet, I don't think. I think that we were waiting for this moment. It'd been a really good game. And I had a potato wedge in my mouth, and I was literally like, ah, and I inhaled the potato wedge into my lungs. And my wife was like, you're a closet City fan. What? I was like, no, out the window. I don't care. That goal, that's the winning goal of a fucking trophy. Like, that is what you have to do in these games at Wembley Stadium under those floodlights. Yes, Millie. And it was
I love that.
It sort of epitomizes it. Also, it was a great way. It was a great way of starting the WSL season, and everybody was like, holy macaroni, I think we have Peniel Harder arriving. Sam Kerr, that was a terrible game for Sam Kerr, but we've got Sam Kerr now. It was Chloe Kelly's like inaugural game, playing in a City shirt, and you were going, this season is gonna be epic. And then
I love that account of it, because it's like, no matter what team you're rooting for, if you're a soccer fan and something like that happens, you have to just stop and be like, holy shit.
My nomination we've got 5 nominations in this round now. Sorry, guys. So it's going to be slightly complicated. But I'm nominating Stephanie Frappart, who is the referee that broke every boundary in women's football by becoming the first to do a men's Europa League game and a men's Champions League game. And on top of it all, didn't give any of the fucking haters a single thing to complain about. Oh yeah, you rock, you're amazing. What pressure you did that under. Yes, because if a woman does something wrong, then don't we all know about it? And I remember it annoyed me. Obviously, it annoyed me. But I went on Twitter after that game and I watched that game like intently. And she was excellent. She was like the best refereeing I'd seen in a long time, trying to take my biased hat off, obviously. And people were like, she's actually doing all right, to be fair. And that was the sort of comments. And I was like, I know that's as good as we're going to get because you're an absolute ape, but I know that's the best we're going to get from some men out there. I think that Stephanie doing that really does, lay the groundwork for lineswomen and female managers in the men's game and female senior people in the men's game. Stephanie, you're a legend.
She's just like, this is my job and I happen to be a woman, and that's it.
Yeah.
She paved the way. among many, many others. So that's a great nomination. I'm very happy you and I are not going to be voting on these, that other people are deciding, because these are some big time nominations right now.
Sorry, I just dropped my beer bottle in a really crucial moment there. And we also put in the Dash win, which we mentioned earlier on.
In the year of 2020, one of the most defining, I want to get this right. Let's start again.
This is like Roald Dahl.
In the year of 2020, when you think about women's football and you think about some of the most defining moments of that year, you have to put the Houston Dash victory of the Challenge Cup into that category. And I will tell you why right now. Number one, the Dash win was huge, specifically for the Houston Dash. And I know that sounds stupid, but I will explain what I mean by that. What I mean by that is the Houston Dash have always been a losing team. They were the team that, like, if they were coming to town, I don't really want to go to the game because it's not going to be good soccer. I don't really want to see them play. They've never really been contenders at all. Nobody truly cared. Sorry, that sounds harsh. The Houston...
This is not going well. I want to nominate someone because no one cared about them before.
The diehard fans cared, but they were not a narrative.
I get this.
So they were big for Houston Dash. Second, they're huge for the NWSL for two reasons. Number one, they were the storyline of the Challenge Cup. I was going to tune into the Challenge Cup no matter what, but I guarantee you, I was not expecting to attach to a team and start rooting for teams and players on that team as much as I did. Like, I was fully invested, and I went into the Challenge Cup thinking, I don't really have an NWSL team I'm attached to. I came out a diehard Houston Dash fan, and I think a lot of us did, and a lot of us tuned into the Challenge Cup specifically for the Houston Dash, for that storyline. Now we're building, all right? So we did City. Now we did the league. The league itself, the NWSL being the first league in all of professional sports in this country to come back, it doesn't get the credit it deserves. That is a huge feat. And for a female sports team to do it, for them to get the boost in coverage that they got as well, first of all, the majority of games were played on nationally televised broadcasts, which does not always happen. And second of all, I'm not gonna say the number of the percentage that their viewing, or like their viewership, their audience went up, because I'm gonna get it wrong. I don't have it in front of me, but their viewership increased dramatically in 2020.
Hundreds of percent. So like
hundreds of percent. And it was because of the Challenge Cup. So for those reasons, the Dash winning the Challenge Cup is our nomination.
There's one thing I want to raise just because it's so present right now. And that is to do with women's football right now in COVID. And Sarah, could you just give us a state of the nation or a state of the world of women's football as we speak right now, because it's so present and prevalent?
Absolutely. So obviously, as everybody knows, our friends in the UK are on lockdown. And with that came FA restrictions for both men's and women's football, I will say. But the state of women's football right now is that there have been restrictions placed on any games, teams, leagues that are not deemed elite. So that is across the board what's happening in FA. Most specifically, to get into the specifics of the FA Cup. So the FA Cup, at the stage it's at right now, is not deemed an elite tournament because it's at such early stages. I know. For the US listeners, Helen, do you want to give a quick synopsis of what the FA Cup is for the Americans who might not be super familiar?
So the FA Cup is the oldest football tournament in the world. It was actually launched by Eton, as in the boarding school, which is quite famous for our prime minister, or most of the prime ministers, Churchill, and it's an elite boarding school, and they launched the FA Cup back in like 1901, like really like a long time ago. And it's seen as one of the most important tournaments in English football. The way that it works and the reason why it's so unique is because before you start seeing the televised games, way back at the beginning, like months and months before that, the amateur people right at the bottom are playing this game. So this is the ultimate tournament because it involves everyone. So it's kind of like, imagine the World Cup, but every single country played in the World Cup finals. So you'd have like 300 countries or whatever it is playing against each other. And then you occasionally get a situation where like Blythe Spartans, who are, you know, a tiny little football club, end up playing against Manchester United or Arsenal or whatever at their tiny little home ground where their grass is like, you know, chopped up or whatever. And then going over to the women's game, obviously historically because of inequality and because of the game being banned by the Football Association, the women's game being banned back in 1921 for 50 years, women's FA Cup has kind of been secondary because it was initially it was about getting a league going and making women's football professional. But over the years, we've really like grafted to make the FA Cup something that's really important. And I play in the FA Cup, as in my amateur team plays in the FA Cup. And if we go far enough and win all of our little northern leagues, there's a chance that I might end up at the at the Academy
Helen's
Stadium.
gonna play against Lucy Bronze, and she's gonna be so excited about it.
Oh my god! If my team managed to successfully, okay, so just to be clear, this won't be happening anymore because of this coin toss. But every year you dream as an amateur player that your team can scramble their way through to the knockout stages. I would then say to my coach, I really feel like, I know that usually I play as like more of a right winger / right back, but I really feel like this week I could be a left winger. Like, I know this is we're playing against Manchester City. I know that this is like the game where we should keep a bit of stability, you know, but I just feel like that would be my, I
feel like this is how you would need to approach that conversation, Helen. And for those who didn't make the connection, she wants to play on the left so that she can match up against Lucy Bronze.
No,
what?
How dare you?
I feel like the way to have that conversation with the coach, Helen, is to just level set and be like, listen, I believe in us, but we're not going to win this game. So just let me have this moment and put me on the left side.
Yeah, thank you. I hope that makes sense.
That was better than I would have done. I would have said it's the longest standing tournament in England, and it starts with all of the teams across all of England, the hometown teams, and they play each other in this massive tournament until you get to one winner. And obviously the professional teams usually come out on top.
I like that you
your description was much better.
You did a visual there of like a pyramid, and I think that's perfect because it kind of just epitomizes at the bottom there's so many clubs, and it just sort of like whittles away and halves every round until you get to the point where the big guns come in because they don't have to play as many fixtures. And this year, because of COVID, it's been slashed, and I think the worst part is it's patronizing. And I saw an anecdotal thing because obviously they're coin tossing it supposedly, or they're scrapping that. I don't really know where it's at the moment, but I saw a really anecdotal thing in the Women's Super League last year. One of the referees came out unprepared and they hadn't brought a coin with them. So they asked the players to do rock, paper, scissors to decide who would get the kickoff. And he got fined or banned for a couple of games for doing that because it's unprofessional. And now the league want to coin toss people's future. They want to decide. And, you know, and you just think you bollocked someone for being unprofessional, for, you know, relying on rock, paper, scissors. And now essentially you're tossing coins and, you know, gambling on people's incomes and futures. And that's the sucker punch.
Absolutely. Just to say this, because I don't think I top lined it. So obviously the FA Cup, because it's at the beginning of the year, is in the beginning stages. And because it's in the beginning stages, it is not considered an elite tournament. So they are not allowed to play. So what the FA has proposed is that each game be quote unquote played, so decided by a coin toss. And that's where we're at right now. I think that they've been met with a lot of backlash.
I just want to jump out the window. We are just in a situation as a women's game where every moment of development is met with a slap in the face, or it's just met with absolute contempt. And that's how I feel about that. It just feels like contempt. It's just like, How patronizing is that? Sarah and I are going to come back together because there are still some topics that we want to discuss. I'm sure anybody that follows me on Twitter is shocked I haven't mentioned it already, but I would like to talk about the Leeds United situation and the Karen Carney debate, and I think there's like a few other things that we'd like to discuss. So we're going to do a midweek release. You are welcome to get us back in the swing of things. And also there is going to be Patreon content up at www.patreon.com/The Woso Show. Thank you so much, by the way. I feel like I need to shout out. Somebody has joined this week and contributed £20 a month. That I'm hoping you haven't made a mistake. So if you're listening out there, you
don't tell them if they have.
No, it's not how I roll. Thank you so much for like contributing £20 a month, because it massively helps us. We can get sort of microphone equipment, and when the lockdown's lifted, we obviously going to Lewes Football Club. And we want to do more things. We want to go to as many games around the world as possible. So this stuff goes back into the show. So thank you so much. If that wasn't a mistake, but if that was, head over to your Patreon and just downgrade slightly just to the sort of £7 a month mark. That's absolutely fine. Thank you so much.
Yeah, big shout out. Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Maybe Helen can give some inside scoop stories on the trip to Lewes Football Club next time, and when she doesn't get food poisoning this time around.
I mean, why are we still talking about this?
Because it's one of the best stories I've ever heard.
I can't believe it. Do you know what the worst is? Is like, we were there. We were literally in the morning. I was so ill. We were 10 minutes from the club. And still now, it's January and I get a bit of a dicky tummy every time I talk about it. And I feel a bit like, I can't believe I chundered all over that car park and myself. I was a mess. So thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate it. This has been a really epic episode, I think.
Way to kick off the year.
We're going to do a Twitter poll after the show is released, so do stay tuned with our Twitter, and please do join in and let us know what you think of this week's episode. Thanks!